What is up, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Ain't It Funky podcast. My guest today is Brian Clancy. Brian is a drummer, drum tech, and studio engineer based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and is the co-owner of Flamrest Studios, a studio space designed specifically for tracking drums and where drummers can create incredible looking and sounding content for their social media channels. Brian has been a drum tech on many tours, most notably for Nick Peterson of Northlane. He has also played the legendary Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. In our conversation, we spoke about him co-founding Flamrest Studios with his best friend Isaiah Perez, a day in the life of a drum tech, playing at Red Rocks, and more. Go check out his Instagram at Brian Clancy Drums, and of course, the Flamrest Studios Instagram at Flamrest Studios. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe wherever you're listening. The video version is available on YouTube as well. Thank you for tuning in, and enjoy. All right, Brian Clancy, welcome into the podcast.
What's up? What's up?
Dude, thank you for being here, man. Brian, tell me about what got you started in music, or was drums your first instrument?
Yeah, drums was the first and only instrument.
Right, okay.
How did it all start? It's a good question. Nobody in my family's really musically oriented other than myself. So that was kind of cool, but also like, you know, had nobody that could relate to me in that way. But my neighbors growing up, one of their sons was like a multi-instrumentalist and played like everything. But, you know, growing up, he had like bands and stuff, and I'd always hear them practicing in the basement. So like I was that little creep that would like sit outside the window or like go play outside so I can listen to them, you know, rocking out and stuff. And sometimes they'd like invite me over, and I don't know, I just caught the bug. Like I grew up playing sports and was supposed to be like, you know, a sports phenom. And then I found drums, and that all kind of went to the wayside.
Right. And what was it about drums that kind of moved you?
Man, I don't know. It's just like I can't dance to save my life, but like, you know, you hear a drum beat and it invokes something in you that makes you want to like move and like just get down with whatever they're playing. And I don't know, I just caught that bug. Anything like rhythm based though too, because like I just remember growing up and like my dad would like be like, oh, can you hear like the different instruments? And like bass was a big one, and bass and drums kind of correlate, so I guess that makes sense. But anything rhythm based, yeah, like we're just the backbeat of music, and I think that's cool, and I can contribute to that in some way. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, for sure, man. And then, so did you start taking lessons, or was it like, were you self-taught, or?
Yeah, I kind of took lessons for like a couple months, and then like any young kid, I kind of had a big head at that time. And I really was never into school in general, but just the thought of taking lessons and like having to be there at a certain time and like, oh, I got to do homework now playing the drums. I kind of had a big head, kind of just went off and did my own thing. So I would say a majority of what I know, I'm self-taught, both drums and audio engineering, because I do that too.
Yeah. And what kind of styles of music were you listening to at the time when you kind of started?
Growing up, kind of all over the place. Mainly like rock, I would say, growing up, between rock and metal. And at one point, a lot of that was like Christian rock and metal groups, which I still listen to till today. A lot of those groups are still going, which is crazy. And I've gotten to tour with a handful of them, which is even crazier. But yeah, I would say rock and metal. But like, I just remember every Sunday we would go to my grandparents' house, and my parents would always put on like the smooth jazz station.
Oh,
And so I've
sweet.
always been a jazz head. I can't play it to save my life, but I love jazz music.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
And you grew up in New Jersey, is that right?
Born in Philly, raised in Jersey.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
so I guess Jersey's close to New York. Is it also quite a jazz scene in Jersey or?
uh, that's a good question. More so Philly area has more jazz. Like my
Hmm,
parents live like 30 minutes outside of Philly.
okay.
It's about an hour drive to New York. We didn't really go there much. If you know anything about Jersey, Jersey's kind of split into like three different regions. So there's North Jersey, Central Jersey. If you're really from Jersey, you know what that's about. And then South Jersey, which I consider myself from. So
Okay.
yeah. But in Philly, there was definitely a lot of jazz influence and definitely on the radio because radio was so prominent back then. There was a lot of jazz stations and like hip hop R&B stuff.
Right.
And I really was a big R&B fan growing up too. So that's another influence. I'm kind of all over the board. Ironically
Right.
enough, like the only genre I didn't touch up until moving to Nashville was country. Uh, and then COVID hit and I kind of fell into the country thing and now I'm kind of obsessed. So, yeah, tastes
Yeah,
change over time. You never know.
for sure, man. I feel like you can't go to Nashville without kind of, yeah,
Oh,
getting into
yeah.
it and appreciating country. I mean, it's everywhere. So, yeah.
Oh, you can't escape it here. I mean, I'm very like new school like country. I'm still like trying to get into all the old stuff. Honestly, I think it's cool. Like it's so different than what modern country music is.
Yeah.
But the thing that's really intriguing right now is the rock and the metal is really starting to infuse in the country world. And so there's a lot of really sick things happening down here at the moment and I'm trying to get my foot in the door. So just
Hell yeah.
working and doing the thing.
Yeah. Do you get to gig around the Nashville circuit quite a bit or?
Um, I kind of don't. I I've never done a Broadway gig here in town. That's kind of personal choice on my part. I know a lot of old heads would say I'm stupid for not doing that, but I don't know. It's just never been my thing. Um, I like for me when I play music, I have to like really uh I have to like find an attachment to it almost for me to invest in it and for me to
Hmm.
go sit at a bar for 4 hours a night playing, songs that I don't know or songs that I just don't speak to me in a way. Like, yeah, I'd be making a buck, but I just don't want to do that. So I hibernate in my studio all day, make content, record other people. That's kind of like my outlet whenever I'm not doing a touring gig. Because at the moment,
Right.
I don't
Okay.
have a group that I play with.
Yeah. And so we talked about this briefly before. You worked at the Pampered Pooch Pet Resort and Spa one time.
I
Was that
sure
like
did.
straight out of high school, or like what other jobs did you do before you went into music full time?
Yeah. No, that was not like my first job. Um, my first job ever was working at a Journey Shoes. Uh,
Mhm.
and at that point, I think I was a freshman in high school. So I worked there and then kind of worked a couple other like grocery jobs growing up before I moved here. Um, and when I moved here to go to audio engineering school down at a studio called Dark Horse in Franklin, Tennessee.
Mm.
Um, so I did that, graduated, and then I interned there for like a year. Um, and up to that point, I don't think I had like a normal job. I kind of came down with some money and, just figured I'd try to do the thing. Um, but eventually, life hit. Got to be an adult, pay your bills. So I've had a bunch of odd end jobs, like working overnights at Kroger, which is a local grocery store. What else have I done? I was a catering driver for Ruby Tuesdays. Did the
Mm.
whole like food delivery service thing. Funny enough, the owners of that are the same people that own the Pampered Pooch.
All right.
Essentially, to explain them, they're like this family of like if you looked up entrepreneur in the dictionary, it would be them. They own like multiple different businesses. And the delivery service was the first one I started working for. And then they opened up a dog grooming salon in their basement at the point. They don't do it out of there anymore, but I started working for that. And then from there, they opened up a kennel on the property. And so I kind of like helped open that and was like their first full-time employee. And so that whole family's like, uh, you know, my non-related family in a way. And they really helped me get on my feet, but also pushed me to go pursue the music thing because they knew that's what I ultimately wanted to do. And, when I got my first touring opportunity, they were super understanding and were like, no, we want you to go do this. And I went and did it, and I haven't turned back since. So,
Hell yeah, man.
yeah, man.
Who were you touring with?
I toured with a group called We Are Messengers for about 2.5 years.
Right.
And they were like a Christian rock group.
Okay. Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
And you said before you studied audio engineering at the Dark Horse studio in Franklin. Had you meddled? Had you dabbled? Had you dabbled in audio production before that, kind of in your teens and stuff leading up to that, or was that sort of the first time you got into audio engineering?
Trying to remember. This all feels so long ago now. Actually, yeah. Like I would say before I moved to Nashville, because like I came right out of high school, which would have been 2013. I'd gotten accepted into a college in Philadelphia, and I was gonna do like an audio engineering program there. But everybody knows how college works. You got to go do all your extracurricular courses and all that stuff. And not to mention it's expensive as all get out. And I think I had gotten like scholarship money, but even with that, just commuting from my parents' house to the school every day, it was going to be some astronomical student loan debt. And so I kind of put it off for a year. And just kind of worked in town. And then the year came up and my parents were like, hey, what you doing with your life? And at that point I kind of made up my mind that I didn't want to go to school. So I forget how it all happened, but I think I was just on Facebook one day and stumbled across an ad for Dark Horse. And I was like, you know what? I kind of want to do this. I've always been interested in audio, and like I'd bought a mixer and microphones for my parents' house back in the day, and just I had no idea what I was doing. I just plugged them in and turned knobs to see what they did. So yeah, and then I stumbled across Dark Horse, knew nothing about Tennessee, hardly knew anything about Nashville. And I was like, I want to go do this. And at the time I thought, let me go do this program, then I'll move back home and try to do, what I want to do in Jersey. And then lo and behold, next thing you know, I'm here for the last 9 years. So,
wow.
Yeah, this next month will be 9 years, which is wild. But I guess I'm a vet of Nashville at this point.
Dude, awesome, man. And you own Flamrest Studio. Your own sort of studio in a shed. It looks awesome. I saw the video before before doing this podcast.
Oh, and thanks for checking that out.
And yeah, for sure, man. And it looks awesome, man. Tell me a little bit more about Flamrest. How long have y'all been going? And tell me about building that up.
Sure. So Flamrest, how do I describe this? I would say it's less of like an actual space, and it's kind of just the culmination of what myself and my partner, Isaiah Perez, he's one of my best friends in town, also a badass drummer. Um, Him and I have kind of just been best friends for the last like 6 years. We used to live together at one point, and like him and I have recorded drums in every possible place you can imagine, like a living room, kitchen, spare bedroom, garage, you name it, we've done it. And over time, we've had houses where we've had nice like guest rooms that we can go track in. We've both done work in commercial studios, which is awesome, but that's not an everyday occurrence. So we've always kind of been like DIY, and now the place that we're in now, Flamrest Studios, is like the first time we've had an actual space that's like built specifically for drums. And so I will preface by saying that technically the space isn't ours. Like, it's not on either of ours properties where we live. We pretty much rent it from this guy named Steve, who used to be a full-time drummer himself. And long story short, kind of switched careers, and now he no longer plays drums full-time. So the shed was just kind of sitting in his backyard, collecting dust. And he was like, I really want to give this to somebody that's going to use it and, do good with it. And I reached out to him, and that's kind of it. And so ever since we moved into this place, which again, I think in February will be a year anniversary, we've just kind of been going balls to the wall and, trying to take advantage of what we have, because, it's not going to last forever, and eventually it'll move to a new space. But so far, this studio has been the best thing that's happened to either of us. Speaking for him too, I think he would say the same thing. So yeah, man, it's just a place for drums. And the last thing I'll say about it is, like, it's not a full production studio. I don't do guitars, vocals, bass, any of that. I could if I wanted to, but one thing I try to do is like separate myself from the rest of the people that are all here trying to do the same thing I'm doing. So like I chose to specifically focus on drums because that's what I love the most, and that's the instrument I know what I'm doing, to say the least. And I'm just stoked to be doing it and blessed to have the space that we have. So that's awesome. A little backstory on that.
So how long did it take you all to kind of set that all up? Because you said it's almost a year anniversary of it actually being in business, so to speak. But like, how long did you guys, need to set it up and build the wood panels and all that jazz?
Well, like I was saying, luckily the building already existed, and Steve had already built the whole thing out. So all we had to do was move our drums, my recording gear, all that in there. He already had stuff, and I could have just used what he had, but I've already had a collection of stuff over the years. So I was like, let me bring my stuff in here so I don't mess with his things. So when we move out, it's not a pain in the butt for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of an unreal scenario, but I think like the thing outside of drum tones, obviously, that we're trying to focus on, because a lot of people and friends of mine have now come to the studio to record, and I do a lot of like content sessions for like social media purposes so that people have content to post. And I'm not much of like a camera and video guy. Everything I do that's on my social media is all on my phone. Like,
yeah.
I love when I get asked the question of what camera do you use? Because like, I'm not doing anything fancy. I don't like, I love and appreciate the art of video and video editing, but it goes way over my brain. But that's like one thing we're really trying to step up this year is like the video side of it. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming that got tracked towards the end of last year that hopefully is releasing soon. Not of me, but of some people that have come through the studio. So everybody keep your eyes peeled for that because there's some cool stuff coming.
Yeah, because you said on Instagram that some heavy hitters have been coming in or are coming in.
Yeah. Between the ones that came in before the holidays, and then I've got 3 guys coming in next week, and one of them everybody's already seen, but 2 of them haven't been yet. And if you're a drummer, you'll know who these guys are. But I'm stoked because I get to record them. So
sick.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Are you allowed to divulge who it is, or?
I won't divulge the name yet, just because I don't know if they want things being said. But one's a metal guy, and the other one's like a. See, I'm horrible at like naming genres of music, especially in the rock and the metal world, because there's so many like subgenres. But
yeah,
the other one's in a pretty notable band too, and he's from the UK. So those are the hints I'll give. But I think when everybody sees who it is, they'll know who they are. So.
And obviously I'm sure that'll bring exposure to the studio.
Hopefully. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. Not only to showcase them and their talents, but, also keep building the name of the studio and drawing more people in and, building that client list, baby.
Sick, man. And have you all been going about like collecting, a network of people and getting people? Is that just through social media, or is that kind of as word of mouth been working out well for y'all? Or
so this is gonna sound horrible because like I'm no businessman by any means. Like I have no idea what I'm doing on that side of things. Like I've always worked for somebody. I've never been my own boss. So this whole side of things and like, keeping track of receipts, budgets, making like client lists and like reaching out to people. That's never been my forte. Luckily, like most of how I've built up clients and get people to come to the studio is like via social media and just friends that come through, dig what I'm doing, and either come to record stuff themselves and then post it and recommend me. So it's kind of a culmination of things. But somehow we stay busy. And thank the Lord for it, because there's some months where it's like, I might have to go get a job or something. But the man above always provides. So I'm just trusting in myself that everything's gonna fall into place the way it should, and you may have to grind and struggle for a bit, but eventually it's going to pay off because you put in all this hard work and dedication over the years. So that's what I'm hoping for and praying for.
Sweet, man. Yeah, it looks amazing, man. It's if I was in Nashville, if this means anything, if I was in Nashville, I would certainly come book a session in the studio because, obviously I'm a drummer myself.
Yeah, man.
A passionate drummer. So it looks awesome and it sounds great on the videos, man. Some of the gear that you guys have there, and the sound is
thank you so
clean,
much,
man.
Thank you. Thank you. I said it again last night because I did a remote session for somebody again yesterday, and tracked everything. And usually at the end of a session, like I'll bounce it down so I can hear it like in the car and on different speakers. And I say this often, but I don't know. I think that might be my best drum mix yet. Unfortunately, I can't release it because the song isn't released yet. But it's an ever-going process. I'll probably listen to it a few days from now and be like, "Oh, I want to change something or whatever. I would have done this differently." But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty confident in my drum sounds at this point in my career that I know what I'm doing, and everything now is just fun and experimentation. Because I don't do a
Right.
whole lot different from drummer to drummer. What I'm learning is microphones don't magically make you sound better. They more often than not expose flaws in your playing than
Mm.
they do make you sound good. So a lot of it is the drummer, in my opinion. Because if the drummer's not solid or the kit doesn't sound good in the room, there's not a whole lot I can do on my end other than like edit and place everything to the grid or, add notes that aren't there. So a lot of the credit in the way I get my drum sounds goes to the drummer. I would say I'm like a very small portion of that equation because
Right.
if those factors aren't there, there's not much I can do to polish a turd.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, dude, you're always welcome. You ever find yourself in Nashville, hit me up. And
Hell
hey,
yeah,
it's an
man.
excuse to just come to town, take a little vacation, and you know
And throw down.
exactly.
Hell yeah, man. Awesome. And yeah, tell me about because you drum tech as well, and I know you drum teched for Nick Peterson of North Lane. Was it last year?
Yeah. Well, yes. Sorry, my frame of reference is like so bad. Ever since I started touring, I'd never know what day it is, what time of day.
Tell me
Yeah.
about it.
Uh, yes, it was last year. It was last September. They went out on an Australian US tour with it was us, Parkway Drive, Amity Affliction, and Make Them Suffer.
Sick.
And yeah, I was drum teching for Nick, which still doesn't even feel real, but it was a really cool tour. And that was like my first official drum teching tour where I was just a designated drum tech.
How did you get called for that? How did you get into that gig?
Um, Another buddy of mine on social media. He's a drummer too, but also drum techs for a couple of different guys. And what happened? I think I saw that he posted a story on Instagram, and he was like, any drum tech friends available for such and such dates. And so I reached out to him, didn't know who it was for. And he was like, yeah, man, it's for North Lane. If you're interested, I could put you in touch. And I was like, sign me up, please.
Insane, yeah.
So yeah, that was wild. And Nick and the rest of the North Lane boys were super easy to work with. Super down to
Hell yeah.
earth, chill dudes. And I just got to mess with drums all day. What better way to make a paycheck?
Dude, that's so sick.
Yeah, man.
Man, and tell me like a crazy tour anecdote. What's a story that comes to mind?
Crazy tour story. Trying to. Okay. I wasn't actually involved in this, but it was on a tour that I was on. So we were on Toby Mac's Hits Deep tour. This is when I think I was playing with Messengers at the time because I worked for them before I started playing for them. But I
Right.
think it was during the period where I was playing. And it was so that tour specifically is usually like an arena tour around the States. And so we're on buses, and there was confusion or something during that tour, and I think I ended up having to change buses like mid tour. And anyways, so another bus that was on the tour was owned by one of the bands that was on the tour, and they brought their own driver, which normally that's not how that works on that tour. And we were driving through the mountains one night. I forget where. And apparently that bus like almost drove off the side of a cliff
Oh wow.
in the middle of the night, which is terrifying to think about. Like,
yeah.
luckily I don't get paranoid much when I do go out on the road, but it's stories like that that really make you like stop and think like, hey, you know, what I'm doing isn't necessarily the safest thing out there. And like we take a lot of risk and we put a lot of trust in people that we've never even met before to get us to and from all these different places. So yeah, I remember hearing that and woke up the next morning and I was just like, holy smokes, thank God that didn't happen to us. That was probably the lamest tour story I could have told, but for some reason that's the only one that popped out.
No. Yeah, as you said, that really is scary to think about. So that's like some Cliff Burton shit right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's, yeah, my God.
I have a bunch more. I'm horrible with getting asked questions on the spot and then having to think back and be like, oh, wait.
No, you're good, man. You're good. and so with North Lane, were you guys traveling in a tour bus or?
With them on that tour, we were on, I don't know if you've ever heard of a bandwagon, but a bandwagon is essentially like a smaller version of a tour bus. They build out like bunks in them like a tour bus does, but it's like smaller, and like the suspension on them isn't like what a tour bus suspension is, so you bounce up and down a lot more than you would on a normal tour bus. But we had a place to sleep every night, and we had a bathroom in there, we had a shower, and if you've been on tour, you know all that is essential.
For sure, man. What's the diet like on tour?
Garbage. Well, on that tour specifically, it was garbage. I've been a little pampered on tour. So like most of the tours I've done have been like catered, where the tour hires out like a catering service and they'll cook for you breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah, I've been a spoiled brat. Not all touring is like that, but a lot of the times it's like McDonald's or whatever the heck is in the no-name town that you're playing in. So yeah, it could be better.
Yeah,
but you do what you got to do to survive.
And sort of walk me through a day in the life of a drum tech, if you will. Like what's the routine like?
Oh, geez. Let's see. I would normally wait. Luckily on that tour, because I'm used to like back when I like first started touring, I was also helping out on like the crew side of it. And for the first tour I did, it was an arena tour, and like me being a newbie fresh into the touring world, I was so surprised at how everything worked and functioned. Like I was so naive at the time. But those tours, like you wake up at 6 a.m, you start loading like that, and you're working most of the day, depending on what area you're working in. So like I would be loading in all day, finally maybe catch a break around like 3 o'clock, and then it's showtime. Most of the time the crew has like responsibility during the show, and then show ends and boom, you go right into loadout. And on tours like that, loadouts can go for like 2-3 hours. And by the time you're in bed, it's like 1 a.m. First, you got to run to the shower to go shower if there's hot water or space. And then, yeah, hop into your bunk, wake up, do it all again the next day.
Dude, wow.
But the North Lane tour was much nicer. Like our load in wasn't until like 1 or 1:30 most days. So we had a lot of downtime, which was nice, but unfortunate at the same time, because like for Nick and I, because we weren't set up on a riser and like stationary, I had to build this kit every day on the floor. Because like I had it all mapped out on his rug and everything, but his hardware doesn't have like memory locks on it. So I had to place everything because we only had a 15-minute changeover time.
Wow, dude.
So we were having to like take kits off. All the openers shared one riser. So 15-minute changeover time. We're taking full kits down, putting full kits up, remiking them, the whole nine.
Wow.
So we really had to be on it. And there were days where I was like up there panicking, but we'd always make it work. And like I was saying earlier, Nick was super easy to work with. And luckily his drums are just great, and they truthfully didn't need a whole lot of work other than just like maintaining them, cleaning them, and tuning them when they needed to be tuned. But they did a great job of staying in tune. And I'm trying to think, I think we only broke like one cymbal on the tour.
Wow.
Which is pretty good. We almost broke 2 snare heads in one show in Salt Lake, but we came out unscathed. So
Okay.
but yeah, that's pretty much a day. Like, yeah, we'd roll in 1:30. I'd set up on the floor. Then there's usually some downtime. I'd have to like get the kid up on stage or wherever I could stage them until we could set up on stage before our set up, play the set, get done, tear everything down. And most nights we had to go like load our trailer. So we're like pushing cases across parking lots and all that stuff. So, but the rest of our crew was great. Shout out Doug, shout out P, Petrol, and Dylan and Dilsey. Everybody killed it. Just work together as a team, and just makes everything so much easier.
Damn, man. Yeah, it sounds like a busy schedule, but I'm sure at the end of the day, obviously, that's more fulfilling than sitting in an office.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's different, you know, but for me, like, not only do I get to work with drums and musicians every day, but part of the cool thing about touring is I get to go see the country in places that otherwise I most likely would never see. And not a lot of people get to do that. So like, I'm definitely blessed. And it's not coming out of my pocket either. It comes out of the person that I'm working for. So I'm always grateful for where I'm at and the people I get to work for, and for allowing me all these cool opportunities. So hopefully there's more of that this year, because I have been off the road for a minute and I definitely miss it. So I'm hoping to get back out there soon. But for now, I'm just crushing it in the studio and doing that side of things for now. So who knows where the rest of the year will lead.
Right. So you haven't been offered anything concrete yet?
No, I have one tour on the books for sure, but that isn't till the summer. And I can't announce who it's with because the tour's not announced yet. But I have that, and then I actually just got a call yesterday from my buddy Isaiah, and it looks like I might go fill in for their tech at the end of February into a little bit of March. So that'll be fun, because him and I have never toured together, and we've been dying to do it for years. So I guess now the opportunity's there. So hopefully that happens, and I get to go do that for a little bit.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, dude.
Well, that sounds amazing, man. That's from the studio to drum teching back to the studio. That sounds exciting, man.
It keeps me on my toes.
What's something that you would like to see yourself doing within the next year, 2, 3 years, that you haven't, maybe sort of untapped realms that you want to get into?
Good question. I'll like two-part it. I think like on the touring side of things, I'm trying to get into the country scene here. So I think for me to find a country artist that would take me on and I could play for them would be sick. That's something I definitely want to experience. And I've played some like pretty big shows in my career up to this point. I've played some venues I never thought I would play. One thing I haven't done yet is play stadiums. I definitely want to do that. That just sounds unreal to me. So to be able to do a stadium tour at some point. From the studio side, man, nothing really in particular. Just continuing to grow that name and that side of services that I offer, because for me, I love touring, but I don't want to do it forever. So I want to have something to fall back on whenever that day comes or whenever I decide that touring's just done for me. I want the studio to be at a point to where I'm busy enough to where I don't have to take a tour, or, you know, I can just stay home and do the studio full time. So I think it's a long-term goal, but ultimately I think that's what I'm trying to achieve with the studio. And maybe one other thing is to like get more into the session work side of the studio. Like I enjoy doing the content thing, and I definitely think there's an importance to that, but it would be cool to get on like the music creation side of studio work. Because I grew up like in the band world, and in the band world, it's, you know, a group of dudes that write music together, get into a studio for a couple months, and, you know, write parts and find sounds. And, you know, nowadays the music business isn't quite like that anymore. Thankfully in Nashville, they still do that, where a lot of the sessions are like the musicians in the room tracking all together, which I think is so cool.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to bring that back. And specifically when it comes to drums, I'm trying to steer people back into hiring a drummer to play drums on a record rather than sample replace them or program the parts, because samples all sound the same, man, and to me there's no life to them. I like the tonal aspect of samples, and I think if I were to describe my drum sound, like I do go for that sampled sound, but it's not samples. It's actual drums in a room. And, you know, some guys are just lazy. They don't want to learn how to mix drums or record them. They would rather just use something that already sounds like finished. And, you know, whatever. To each their own, but to me, just having a drummer in the room and knowing how to blend all those things together, that's irreplaceable to me. So that's sort of been my mission with the studio, and, you know, it just continues to grow. So we'll just see what happens.
Sounds awesome, man. And you mentioned before that you've played some sort of dream venues. What are some venues that come to mind where you're like, it's just mind blowing?
I've done a handful of like college arenas, some of like the NBA and like NHL arenas. But the first year I was with Messengers playing, we got to do Red Rocks, which was bonkers. It wasn't a headlining show, but it's like one of the Christian radio stations puts on a, like, for lack of a better word, like a festival every year at Red Rocks, and Messengers got asked to do it that year. And never in my life did I think I would play that, that venue. And so to check that off the list so early on, just it still doesn't feel real. So that's definitely one of them. And then the following year, we were on tour with Casting Crowns, and we played the Ryman, or not the Ryman. We played the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville.
Yeah, wow.
And
Sick.
like, if you know much about the Opry, they don't really have tours come through there. It's usually like a film TV performance thing, and like there's backline and like a band. But for some reason on this tour, they were able to book it out for like the full tour production. So like I got to play my drums in that room, and that was wild. Still doesn't register in my brain fully, but yeah, those are probably the top two that I've done so far. Still haven't conquered any big hometown venues though, so that's still on my list.
Yeah.
All the tours I've done have skipped my hometown.
Man, that's amazing, dude. Those are insane venues. Yeah, especially Red Rocks is obviously, anybody who's anybody has obviously graced the stage there.
Mm-hmm.
And I always have to think of Stevie Ray Vaughan. Because that was where he played his last gig.
Love me some Stevie Ray Vaughan
with Eric Clapton, and yeah,
legendary,
insane,
dude. I got to sign. So like, there's this like tunnel that goes underneath the stage to like front of house, and that's where like a lot of the artists will go and like sign their names on the concrete wall.
Oh, sick.
I should totally remember this. Wait, I actually have a picture on my phone, I think, because this is cool. But I got to sign the wall, and I think I signed like right next to somebody that I grew up listening to, and I was just like, this doesn't feel right. My name does not belong here. Okay, maybe I didn't sign right next to somebody. But yeah, like that. And that'll just live there forever.
Dude, that's insane.
That'll be cool if I play it again one day, and then I'll have to try and remember where I signed. See if I can find it.
Dude, that's sick, man.
Yeah. No, it was a cool day. It obviously it looks awesome, but it's kind of like the weirdest sounding venue I've ever played at the same time, because it's just a bunch of like slapback reverb from the rocks and the PA just bouncing off of everything. So like in our in-ears that day, it was so hard to just like focus because there was so much delay.
Every time you like hit a drum, it was just like it
a little bit.
Wow, man.
Yeah. So, and I definitely had nerves before that show, but oddly enough, like, I don't know, I just kind of felt at ease a little bit. And normally I get pretty nervous before shows, so like, I'll take it, because who knows if I'll ever get that opportunity again. So at least I can say I did it.
Insane. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Sweet. Well, we're coming to the end of this episode. Brian, is there anything that you want to plug or, shout out, something you got coming up?
Oh, plug. The only thing I'll plug is the old IG. What's my handle? At Brian Clancy Drums. Or you could go to my studio page, which is Flam Rest Studios. I have a YouTube page too, but I'm horrible at posting on there. So you go to my Instagram, that's where I post everything. In terms of what is coming up, we kind of talked about it a little, or foreshadowed some things. So just stay tuned on the IG. There's some cool stuff coming. Some dope drummers going to be stopping by the studio soon. So look out for content coming from them soon. But I'll be posting about it. You'll be seeing it. So just stay tuned. And dude, thank you for having me on here. I had a blast.
Thank you for taking the time.
Oh,
Hell
absolutely.
yes. Right back at you.
Absolutely, man. We'll have to do it again in the future.
Hell yeah. When you play Red Rocks again, you'll have to tell me next time.
Okay, yeah. I'll film the podcast from there.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Well, thank you, Brian.
Oh, absolutely, man. Have a good rest of your day, dude.
Give me money.